What if the perfectionism that you believe will make your songs great is actually the silent assassin stealing your creativity? Have you ever found yourself frozen, stuck on the same lyric line, trying to create that perfect chord progression? But the truth is, perfectionism is not your friend. It's actually the creative killer that is suffocating your process in your songwriting. So today, I want to transform that paralysing self-doubt into pure, unfiltered creative joy. So it's time to silence that inner critic and rediscover a new way of songwriting. Hey songwriters, if we've not met yet, my name is Celine and I am a recovering perfectionist. There, I said it. In my 30 years of songwriting, I've had to work really hard to balance creativity and perfectionism so it doesn't cripple me. But I think to do this, you have to be ready to push out of your comfort zone. I'm going to share 3 things with you that I think are going to help you do that. And if you stick around to the end as well, I'm also going to share a tip on how you can deal with perfectionism when you feel it creeping in again. Let's get to it. So let's start with this. Perfectionism impairs your ability to make decisions. And we all know there are a lot of decisions to make when you're writing a new song. So the way I battle these aspects of perfectionism is I allow myself, encourage myself even, to write a bad song. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but roll with me on this one for a second. Because not every song you write needs to be perfect. It doesn't need to be the next Grammy nomination or the next Ivor Novello award-winning song. It just needs to be written. Because when you force perfection on your songwriting from the very beginning, you kind of lose that creativity and that energy that actually makes your song unique. So I like to think of my early song drafts as sketches, as an artist would do. No, it's not the thing that's going to be hung in the gallery at the end. It's not the finished product. It's the basic form, shape, and understanding of what that final product is going to be. You're getting your ideas down on paper. And I want you to embrace the messiness of this, because in the mess is where that creative energy and that uniqueness comes from. And in the raw aspect of this messy first draft of a song is where massive breakthroughs can occur in your songwriting journey. And when we give ourselves permission to write a bad song, a song full of cliches or an overused chord progression, then you'll find that your inner critic doesn't even bother with what you're doing. It doesn't think that what you're doing is worth bothering about. And it actually frees you up so much to be more creative and to create songs that are on another level. You can discover ideas you never thought or expected. And every amazing song starts as a rough draft. And when I've personally engaged in this kind of practice, which I do from time to time, I've never actually written a bad song. I've written songs that I don't particularly think are going to go further in my songwriting process, but they've never actually been bad. In itself, it is a massive creativity boost for me. I find I experiment with different genres, different styles. I use this opportunity to emulate some of my favourite songwriters who I don't normally write like because they're in a different genre to my style. But I use this opportunity to try things. And when I do that, I learn more about just songwriting in general, and I create a momentum. And I know I've mentioned this a few times before because yes, I love to write more songs, and I do believe writing more songs is what's going to make you a better songwriter. But the momentum of writing a song, any song, is actually just, I can't even tell you how good that is for you. And when perfectionism doesn't bother getting involved, when you're in a creative flow, that kind of flow state that a lot of people talk about, you write some of your best work. Moving on. Perfectionism makes you prone to procrastination. And I know all about procrastination, so believe me when I tell you that perfectionism is one of the biggest things that impacts me procrastinating. It encourages an all or nothing mentality. And basically, that means you've got to write the best song ever or you don't do it at all. And that is not a great place to be as a songwriter. Even an interview I saw recently with Ed Sheeran, when he said that his second album did so well, he had to have a really long, hard look at his career and the future of his songwriting, because he knew he might not even get to that level ever again. And he needed to make himself okay with that and step away from the perfectionism that would drive him towards trying to better that second album. I mean, I think he's done that, but he had to be very aware of his situation to avoid perfectionism slowing him or critically cutting him down in his stride. So when I'm feeling procrastination sneaking in, what I do is, actually, let me rephrase it as a question to you guys. How many of you have given yourself a deadline when you're writing a song? Have set a time limit on when you want the first draft of your song to be done? None of you? Some of you? And I know what you're thinking. Taking away time from your songwriting seems like a punishment, but hear me out a second, because deadlines aren't just for work presentations and college assignments. They're actually a powerful tool for your songwriting as well, because setting a time limit for your songwriting session means you don't get bogged down with endless tweaks or self-doubt. When you're under a time pressure, and I know everyone's felt this, whether it's a college assignment or a work deadline or something like that, you haven't got time to let your inner critic kind of get in the way and start kind of questioning things. You've just got to get the thing done. And there's a lot of people that I know who find themselves that they can't actually achieve stuff. Work, college, songwriting, any kind of creativity or task without setting themselves a deadline to focus their energy. And setting that deadline means you can't procrastinate either. You can't put it off because there's a deadline now. And when you capture that raw inspiration more quickly in that deadline, that time frame you've set yourself, it's like a self-defense against perfectionism. And again, even if the end result isn't perfect, what you've done is you've created that momentum. You've kept going, you've moved forward in the process and the songwriting journey. And what I found is this kind of time-bound approach makes you use your instincts and your gut feeling about things a lot more to defend against procrastination and perfectionism all in all. And those qualities are invaluable to doing anything creative. Now, I've mentioned this before, but I first tried this kind of time-restricted songwriting during February album writing month form for short. It's a pop-up online community that come together in the shortest month of the year, and their aim is to write 14 songs in 28 days. Something that blew my mind when I first tried it. But not only is there a deadline, a time restriction, there's also a numerical value added to this kind of challenge. Because I now regularly set deadlines for myself to sit down for an hour or 2 hours and just see what I can achieve in that time. I set a visual timer on my phone so that I can see how long's left, because that kind of visual reminder of the time constraint really pushes me to let go of that perfectionism, to stop procrastinating and stop avoiding dealing with the thing that I'm struggling with. And it means that I'm moving forwards at all times. In fact, one of the videos I've got lined up for the near future is to go through my kind of speedy songwriting process from when I go from song idea to recorded demo within an hour. And I might actually do it without any edits and make the video the whole hour of my process. If you would like to see that kind of thing, drop a comment and subscribe to the channel, because that's the only way you're going to get to see it and be notified. But if you've not tried this before, I really encourage you to give it a go. You might not finish the song in the first time you kind of give yourself an hour, or you might surprise yourself and finish it in 30 minutes. And when I say finish, that's a very, very kind of broad sense of the term. This creative phase, this initial first draft, isn't finished. And I call it finished or first phase finished because it's a song. I'm able to play that song to somebody else. It's recognisable as a song. It's got a beginning, a middle and end. It's got chords. It may not have words, but it'll have some kind of melody and meter and cadence. and I will have some placeholder lyrics, or I'll have an idea to kind of how the structure's going to be. But what happens is I can play it to somebody and it is a song. Sometimes that's only a verse or a chorus. Sometimes it's a full-length song with me mumbling because I've got no words at all yet. But that creativity, that creative process happened without any perfectionism, inner critic, self-doubt, and all that stuff creeping in. And I got it done very, very quickly to a time constraint. So thirdly, perfectionism allows negativity to get a foothold. And in addition to that, perfectionism hampers your creativity and strips the process of its joy. And we all enjoy songwriting, and it shouldn't be a stressful situation. I know one of my closest friends finds songwriting really stressful. She loves it and she loves the outcome, but she doesn't enjoy the process, which is just so interesting to me. And I'm going to say it again, and I feel I really do say it a lot in my videos. You can beat these aspects of perfectionism by writing more songs. And it sounds obvious to me, but maybe it's not obvious to you, which is why I keep going over it. But honestly, the more you write, the better your songs will get. I've never heard anyone say to me, I've written 30 songs this year and my songs have got rubbish. They've gone from good and they've gone down. Never heard that. Writing more songs creates momentum. And then momentum enables you to need less energy to start a new song. And creative momentum also allows you to block out perfectionism when you need to be creative, because you know that you can edit and polish at a later time. Every song you write, regardless of how long it took you to write, why you wrote it in the first place, teaches you something about the process and enables you to develop your creativity. It also helps build your confidence and identify what works and what doesn't for you in your songwriting. And I've got a great analogy that I learned from a book called Art and Fear, about an art teacher, and I think it was a pottery class, and the art teacher told half the class that they would be graded on the number of pieces they submitted at the end of the semester. The more pieces they submit, the higher their chance of a better grade. But the other half of the class would be graded on one single piece submitted, but it had to be perfect to obtain the top grade. Because while the quantity group were churning out lots of pieces for submission, they were also learning from their mistakes. They were developing their craft and making improvements, small improvements, every time they started a new piece. And although the other group had theorised perfection and aimed for perfection, they hadn't achieved it. And with each attempt at writing a new song, you can learn to let go of perfection, because even the ones that aren't perfect add to your growth as a songwriter. And I find that experimenting with new styles, genres or techniques is a great way to start writing more songs. Now, I promised you a bonus tip, so here it is. If you reframe how you see perfectionism, or if or when you feel perfectionism creeping back in, I encourage you to highlight where it's happening. Make note of it, identify it, and then use that to move forwards. Let me explain. It's like I make a deliberate mistake. So if I find myself working overly hard on the transition from a verse into a chorus, I take stock, I note it, and I write down on my piece of paper. I'm a pen and paper person. I write down pre-chorus here, ? Or transition in a big circle, as it's something I can then come back to at a later time when I am polishing and editing the song, and I can work on that bit then. I'm not going to let the inner critic, the perfectionism, slow my progress, slow the development and the momentum. And what I find is the physical aspect of noting it down, and what I find with the physical notion of marking it down and highlighting it and then moving forwards is a simple yet powerful way of taking back creative control. And one of the best examples I think I can give you about using this kind of situation is using placeholder lyrics instead of writing what will be the final lyrics. And Paul McCartney is a massive fan of this technique. And during his writing of the song Yesterday for the Beatles, it originally started with the line, "Scrambled eggs, oh my baby, how I love your legs." The syllables, the meter, the cadence, the melody, they were all in place, but he didn't quite have the right lyric at the time. So he just found something that fit what he needed to at the time. Scrambled eggs, Yesterday, they had the same number of syllables and stresses, and that worked for him so he could move creatively forward and then focus on those details in the lyrics that he wanted to express at a later date. Another thing I do when I feel my inner critic or perfectionism creeping in is when I'm recording a quick voice note demo of something I've written. And what I do is I sometimes sing, say the chorus is repeated 2 or 3 times in my song. I'll sing that chorus 2 or 3 different ways so I can listen back and decide which one I prefer. It's something I call melody auditioning, and I'm going to make another video all about how I do that and my process for doing that. So please subscribe if you want to see that one. But it's just another way of acknowledging that there are moments that stop my creative flow. And I'm essentially telling my perfectionist self, I've got this, I'll come back to it later. Here's a few different ideas, and I'll kind of choose the right one later on. It's probably the most productive way of managing my perfectionism. And what I've seemed to have done is, instead of it now being a hindrance to my songwriting, I've turned it into a tool. I've reframed it. I make it work for me. So in my editing phase as well, I know what I wanted to do during the creative process, which couldn't quite happen. And it actually makes the editing process a lot swifter and a lot smoother as well, which overall creates more momentum and enables me to write more songs. Yes, I said it again. Now, I really hope that you found these techniques helpful, and you might even give them a go in the future if you've never tried them before. And you might also be interested in this book. It's called The Joy of Imperfection by Damon Zahariadez. I probably completely butchered that name and I do apologise, but it isn't sponsored or anything, this video. It's just a book that I've got a lot of value out with regards to perfection and, well, the joy of it instead, turning it into a tool. It's where some of the ideas from this video has come from, or the realisations I've had once reading it. And you can see I've annotated this book in a number of places to go back to at different times. It's just a book I got a lot of value out, and think that you guys will get value out of it as well. And speaking of value, if you've got any value out of this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up, and if you'd like to subscribe, we can carry on this journey together. And you also might want to watch this video next. It's all about daily writing exercises that you can do, which take no more than 10 to 20 minutes per day to develop your songwriting techniques. I'll see you in the next one.